All right, let's review quiz number 14. Here we did some more mixing in MIDI, and I really like this lecture because I feel like this is finally one of those points where we're taking old information and we're really applying it in a new way to some things, and hopefully that basic stuff is starting to make more sense and you can actually use it when you're mixing these songs. Okay, so the first thing is about that pumping synth sound that is pretty popular in like EDM type music. And the way we get that is by putting a compressor on the synth and then using a side chain with a key input from usually the kick drum. And so that's all signal flow, but also using the side chain and a compressor to do what you need it to do. All right, good. So the next thing, so the limiter would be the next device that we would use, and I hope any of you that were using limiters on individual tracks, we're moving away from that, using compressors on those individual tracks, whereas the limiter, we save that more for the master track or the master fader. And there are two things that are happening simultaneously with the limiter. If you understand that, then you really understand compression and limiting, right? We're reducing the peaks, but then the overall volume, it's turning the overall volume up. So what it's limiting is the dynamic range. We compress the dynamic range, we limit the dynamic range. And then from there, we move on to another dynamic processor, the opposite of a compressor. If we're not compressing the dynamic range, we are expanding the dynamic range. The expander is the opposite of the compressor. It is expanding once the volume drops below the threshold. All right, and equalizers. The thing we wanted to talk about equalizers is bring back into the idea of phase. So where we had frequencies, if they were out of phase, they were canceling each other out. And we did some demonstrations with that. We've heard that in our stereo widening. But now is a point to understand that equalizers also use phase in order to boost or cut certain frequency ranges without the other frequency ranges. In a strict sense, this is going to introduce some phase problems into your mix, but usually it's worth it, particularly if you're not doing really big boosts or really wide cuts. And speaking of cuts and boosts, graphic equalizers, they use a bunch of notch filters. So the way we talked about high pass and low pass filters, and then occasionally a notch filter, these graphic equalizers are employing a bunch of notch filters. All right, well, thank you very much, and we will catch you soon.